Welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast.
It's not over till that bitch is dead.
Let's delve into that a bit deeper.
I'm going to be like the peacekeeper between you two tonight.
Don't fuck with the original.
Yeah, don't fuck with the original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast, part of the You Run Podcast Network. My name is Katie, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Chantal. Hi, Chantal.
Hi.
So we're going to be doing something a little different for you guys for the next month or so. We've decided to do a little mini-series covering some of the incredible films showcased at the UK Film Festival FrightFest. We're so excited to introduce you to these films and give you a bit of our insight. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy.
So, our next film we are covering this week is The Monster Beneath Us, directed by Sophie Osbourne. Windswept Yorkshire in 1898. A grieving woman and her son move back to the unoccupied house of her ex-husband, who was recently found dead in mysterious circumstances. However, they soon discover they are not alone inside the icy house in a slow burn horror exploring the themes of isolation, otherness, and loss. The house is home to a boggart, an evil solitary supernatural spirit of English folklore, and evil haunted character reacts to the malevolent evil. Why can't I say that word? I didn't know it was supposed to be a boggart. That feels very Harry Potter. Like, I know it says
Giving Harry Potter.
I know it says English folklore, but I don't ever remember learning about boggarts.
No, and I didn't know any of that.
Again, no,
as in about the monster.
No, but I don't think we were supposed to know much.
No.
It doesn't start well for me when it says in the description the word slow burn horror.
Go on, Tal. Give us your first thoughts. First.
I liked, again, same as the last one, I liked the opening because it got straight into it. Like, it opens with the husband who's clearly not okay. And then he dies in mysterious circumstances, as the description said, without giving away any more spoilers. But it was like, bam, straight into it. The film is called The Monster Beneath. Like, don't fuck around for 40 minutes waiting to show me the monster. The monster is there. But then it really slowed down. And again, it's one of those, like, this is everything that a haunted horror needs. Like, you could have played haunted bingo with this, because it was like, it used the shadows really well, and like every time there was a wide shot, you're expecting something in the shadows to move. There was basements, there was scratches, there was drawings, there was changes in behavior. So you literally could have had a game of drinking bingo for like the typical horror cliches, which, again, similar to the last one, when you make a film in that genre, you kind of know the genre tropes. So maybe, like, I suppose those are things you expect, so you should be hitting them. But then also it kind of takes away that surprise when it's like, well, obviously those scratches turned up. Like, it's a bit but they did take it something that's like different here, being that we saw the monster so early. Because again, normally in like a haunting, actually we don't know what's there until an hour in.
Yeah.
So what about you? What were your first thoughts on it?
Interesting. Yeah, I like the look of it very much. I love the look of the house, especially. I think location-wise, they hit the nail on the head for like a spooky, ghosty vibe, horror film. I think that they really did well in that respect. Very gothic. Love the sort of gothic aesthetic of the whole thing. I thought that was really cool. I do like the idea of what was trying to be done with this film, that they're trying to sort of incorporate grief within kind of like a Victorian Gothic way. It was really at some points giving me Babadook vibes with like the grieving mother and the son, and then obviously a monster, which potentially, represents grief. I think Babadook certainly does. There were similarities there, which I liked. But for me, I think I found it a bit tricky to connect with any of the characters. So outside of the whole monster situation, I found it quite hard to sort of care, I suppose, about what else was going on in that moment. It felt like there wasn't a real connection for me there. But on another hand, I thought Becca Hirani, I thought she was a really good actor. I thought she was great in this. But in terms of like the characters together, I found it quite difficult to sort of empathize or to sort of really connect with them, I think is what I'm trying to say. Just sort of, so that was where my struggle was.
I think it's hard as well because, as you say, when you're not really caring about the characters, you don't really care what happens to them. So when they see the monster, you're like, you could live or die. I'm not bothered. Which isn't really what you want in a horror. You want to feel for the characters. And
you want to root.
Yeah, you want to be scared on their behalf. So it does kind of take that edge off a bit. I do completely know what you mean about like comparing it. It's not a comparison, it's a metaphor for grief. And I think is what I even put like, I think the mother-in-law character does that really well because again, she was like, oh, we're not talking about Thomas or shit, which one was her? I think Thomas was her living son, her other son. But it was like, we're not talking about him. And it was very, as you say, very Victorian, very olden days, shove it down, don't talk about it. And again, push it down, push it into the basement. So it was a lot like that. And then you had the child trying to talk about it because child innocence. So it did really play into that. And obviously the child was, so the monster really did represent that well. But then it does raise the question again with the opening scene with the father, why could he see the monster if it was grief? But I think it's guilt because again, we saw a bit later on.
Yeah, I think maybe it represents different things, maybe this monster. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I think for me, that's where it was. It was the relationship between the characters and the characters in general. I think they were good actors separately, but I just think as like a whole, it didn't draw me in, is what I'm trying to say. What did you make of, I suppose, we obviously can't spoil anything, but what did you make of the look of the monster?
I didn't love it. Again, what did he look like? He kind of
CGI'd.
It was very CGI'd. He kind of looked like Gerald's Game, Moonlight Man. Like there was kind of giving that sort of vibe, like really big and probably a bit skinnier. Because again, he was a monster, he wasn't a real person. But so I feel like again, it wasn't a monster we hadn't seen before. But yeah, the CGI was. I think also the actors weren't. It was obvious he wasn't there. So again, like we said, you're not caring about these characters because you're like, but he's not there. He's not real. And I don't think it's going to age that well, especially when you had a CGI thing in the middle of like a proper Victorian house.
Yeah.
I think it kind of clashed.
Yeah. And I understand with budget and things, but I do think that special effects could have come in there at certain points, like maybe the close-up of the monster, maybe have like a claw or something, or I think that would have been a bit more effective because you've hit the nail on the head. Like when something is so CGI'd, and this is the issue I had with Last Voyage of the Demeter, when something is so CGI'd, it kind of takes out of the horror. Yeah. You're not scared of it. And that's the difficulty for me. Yeah, I think there were some moments with the monster that I did really enjoy. There were two moments that were included like in the film, which I think were effective.
Yeah. But again, I like the fact we saw the monster so early, but because you could tell it was CGI, straight away you were like, oh, yeah, it's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so what was your wow moment? Sorry, did you say that? No, you didn't. You said two moments of good CGI, sorry. And then, so what was your wow moment?
My wow moment.
I did have one more note, which I completely forgot. That little Charles was like exactly how I imagine a Victorian child to be.
Yeah.
They hit the nail on the head with him.
They did.
Absolutely great.
The costumes were great. Okay, so I think my wow moment was the general kind of cinematography and the feel and look of the film. Like I said, I think the location was spot on. I think the look of it was really fun. At times, I was wondering whether this would kind of there would be a bit more of an atmosphere if it was like all dark in the room and it was Halloween. Like maybe it might kind of work a bit better. So I think just the general look of the film and as we were just saying, the costumes and things. I think that was my sort of wow moment. What about you?
Fine enough, you did actually already mention her, but I think I'm going to say Becca Harani because I think there was one scene where it sounds really perfect. I was going to say when she's in the bath, but you're kind of seeing her. Again, she's a mum. She's a widow. She's a recent widow, so she's dealing with the stress of moving, and moving in Victorian times was like a long ass journey of being a single mum, of losing a husband, and it. Yeah, so I think showing that she had like a very powerful scene where you could just see all like she had some like really good emotion with that, and I think that was kind of my wow
she did.
moment.
She was great.
Yeah, and as you say, that was a very solo scene as well. So I think but that she really did shine there.
Yeah, I agree. I think she was great, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next because I think she's genuinely very talented.
Yeah, she's good.
So what who would you recommend this to?
So I actually made a note because I knew I'd forget. I put I'd make a note to people that like the sort of Victorian style. So again, if you're kind of more into the kind of look and you are really interested in costumes and locations, I think this is a great film for you. I also actually put down, I think it's a good intro horror film because it isn't so scary. It isn't so overpowering and so, it's not like massive jump scares and loads of gore. So I think this is a really good intro film. Yeah, anything you'd add?
No, I think I totally agree with you on that one. No, perfect. So if you guys are into that kind of thing, then give it a go.
Or if you're warming up, you have a friend who's still learning horror. I think this is a nice, ease them in.
Yeah, definitely.
Now the hard question: what are you giving it out of 5, though, Katie?
I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. I think my 1 is for the particular scenes I did enjoy with the monster, and I do like the idea of the monster representing grief or representing feelings at that time. I think that was it's quite a cool idea to incorporate that with Victorian times and make it kind of like a spooky ghosty film. So I really like the idea of it. And as you say, I think the acting, and I think the actors, I think, thrived specifically when they had their individual scenes. So I think Becca Harani was great. So yeah, that's the reason for my 2. What about you?
I am going to go the same. I'm going to give it the same as Year 10. I'm going to give it a 1.5. So I feel like I'm being really bitchy this week, and it's not intentional, but these were both slow burn films, and this one even says slow burn in the plot. So again, that's personal preference, not my type of thing. I also way prefer practical effects over CGI, so I think that brought it down for me. But as you said, I mean, again, I think we kind of agree on the same. What was good about it is the style, the kind of, I really did like the metaphor of grief. I just think it was hard because, again, like every time they mentioned an emotion, like, oh, Charlie, whatever, they kept changing his name, Charles is lonely. I was like, but he didn't really seem that bothered about the fact he was alone. He seemed to be quite content. So I didn't quite believe all of their sort of emotions. But yeah, I did like that they tried that. And as we said, the solo acting was great. Yes, I don't believe we have a release date for this one yet either. So do keep an eye on all the socials. And again, we'll link sort of if there's a movie Instagram or the director's Instagram so that you can get the most up-to-date information.